Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us on the number 732-707-9151 or mail us at rajni@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan, your host, and I'm going to be with you for the next hour. We are going to have some fun time talking about many things related to immigration. But before we dive into the topic for today, there's a very important note that I want to say it out to you, which is there on the screen. That is the disclaimer, and that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So, friends, thank you so much. Today we are, live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So wherever you've joined us from, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to have a very, very interactive session as well today. We are going to take up your questions if you have any. But before we talk about today's topic, I really want to, welcome back our guest for today, and that is none other than Attorney Chand Parvataneni. Welcome back, Chand. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Nipasa. I'm doing pretty good. I think we're getting a lot of rain in Dallas. We had very bad weather in Dallas earlier this week. A lot of people are without
Mhm.
power. So things were a little bit bad on the weather side in Dallas this week.
Right. Right, but I hope you're keeping good and I hope the weather didn't get to you. You're looking good otherwise. Are you very busy at work? How's everything at SPB Law Firm?
So, so the H-1B lottery. So what happened in March? So the filings happen in April, May, and June. And normally
Mhm.
April, May, people are very, very slow. And as it gets closer to the deadline is June 30th. So June 30th is the last day the H-1B filings, the cap filings have to be done. And normally what happens is like pretty much at every law firm, at every company that does H-1B filing, they typically start reacting the last week of May. And June, it gets like pretty busy because everybody's trying to beat the deadline. The deadline is June 30th.
Right,
And
right.
that's what we've been doing. And normally what we tell all the companies is don't wait till the last minute. Try to get the filing done as early as possible. Because if you get the receipt, then you know everything is in good shape. But if you delay and you wait until the last minute, the deadline, if something happens to the FedEx or something happens to the file, and you don't get the receipt, it is too late because once there is a deadline, June 30th, everything stops. And
Right.
if you miss the deadline, USCIS will not accept the cap filings. So that's
Mhm.
pretty much where we are in the middle of H-1B cap season.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Attorney Chand Parvataneni, friends, and he is based out of Dallas, Texas, an immigration attorney expert. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments wherever you're watching. And I also would like to, ask you to subscribe to our channel, that is Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, so that whenever we have shows like these and important discussions like these, you will always be updated first so that you can tune in and even participate in the discussion and maybe even ask your questions and get some clarifications. So Chand, yes, today's topic is shoplifting in the US, and we are going to know the risk and the F-1 visa challenges thereafter. So there has been a lot of shoplifting cases, especially recently. What do you have to say about that, Chand?
Sure. So in the past, when I initially started my practice, I rarely saw any like criminal issues. So most of the time,
Right.
the people are highly educated. The people that come from India, or like anybody else, like who's coming on H-1B, they are highly educated. Or somebody's coming for a F-1 visa, they're trying to get higher education. So most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, it is extremely rare that we see criminal issues. But again, lately, I think we have been noticing some issues, and I think when I discussed with you and you're discussing, I think this is a good topic. We need to bring that awareness in the community. We need to let people know what is allowed, what is not allowed, the importance of compliance, the importance of complying with all the laws of the country. So it's a good area. The reason is we are seeing cases, and people are getting into trouble with the law, and the
Mm-hmm.
shoplifting has been like a major thing. And not only shoplifting, we're also seeing cases like domestic violence. Domestic violence has very serious implications. The police get called, the case gets filed. It's going to impact their immigration status. So domestic violence, or things like driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs, drug issues. So
Mm-hmm.
slowly lately we've been seeing these kind of issues pop up, and in this background, it is extremely important that people are aware of the rules and what even a simple thing like shoplifting can do to their immigration status. Sometimes it could
Mm-hmm.
jeopardize their immigration status in a big way.
Yes.
I've seen cases where somebody were arrested for shoplifting, and the amount involved was not even high. It's like $50, $60. Somebody got arrested, and the next minute, in a week, they know that their visa got cancelled. And this is what is happening. Somebody gets arrested, the consulate finds out, and they are
Mm-hmm.
doing prudential revocations of their visas, whether it's an F-1 visa,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a H-1B visa. I had a case recently for domestic violence, and it was a domestic violence. Something happened between the husband and wife. The wife called the police. The police came, and they resolved it. The husband and wife resolved it. But what happened is the consulate found out about this issue. They revoked the H-1B visa. So what that means is it is extremely important that you don't cross hairs with the law enforcement. You don't do something that involves law enforcement. Always follow the laws, know the laws, and make ensure that you don't violate any kind of criminal laws. Criminal laws are very, very important. Even a simple criminal issue sometimes, even if it's a simple arrest or something simple, could have major implications. It's going to be on your background, and Department of State at the consulate or USCIS here in US, or even at the port of entry, the CBP officers, they have access to the background records, and it could complicate things. And I think today's show, we're going to use this show to discuss about various things like shoplifting, which are slowly like popping up for non-immigrants. And I think just educate everybody on what needs to be done and what kind of precautions one needs to do if they're unfortunately in one of those situations.
Absolutely. And we are definitely going to dive into the topic without further ado, friends. And Chand, I hope you are ready for this first question, which is about understanding, especially the legal charges. So if you can explain the specific legal charge of shoplifting under 2C2011B1 and its potential consequences for Bhavya and Yamini, the recent case, we had seen to very recently. So would you like to say anything about it?
Sure. So we're talking about shoplifting, and I want to just give like a brief background on the criminal law when it comes to shoplifting. In
Right.
United States follows the federal system, and what that means is the federal powers and the state powers, there is a clear separation. And when it comes to criminal law, the way currently the things work are, every state, they have the police power. So what that means is New Jersey can frame its own laws on the criminal actions. So for example, we have Texas and we have New Jersey. So the law for stealing something of value, say for example $200, the law in Texas is different, the law in New Jersey is different, because every state, they have their own statutes when it comes to criminal law. So the criminal law is heavily state dependent. So what that means is every state will have its own laws, and normally the lawyers who are licensed with that state, they are the ones that know more about the statutes, the criminal statutes for that particular jurisdiction. That being said, this statute is a New Jersey statute, and I'm licensed in Texas, so I'm not very familiar with New Jersey. That being said, on a high level, I'll talk about this particular statute. So this statute basically states that any person who takes possession, carries away, transfers, or steals any merchandise from any store, any shop, and their intent is to deprive the merchant and not pay the merchant. So these kind of people are typically going to be charged with this crime in New Jersey. This particular statute is pretty much for New Jersey. If the same crime happened in, say, for example, Texas, Texas has a different law. And again, in Texas, they have a different statute number, and the penalties are different. In terms of, in general, the kind of consequences that people kind of face with this kind of criminal offense, and specifically this particular statute that you just mentioned. In New Jersey, what happens is they look at the dollar amount, and based on the dollar amount, they can charge them with various kinds of offenses. If it's a very small amount, and when I say a small amount, in New Jersey, they said anything less than $200, for example. Anything less than $200 with this particular statute, it gets them a disorderly person's offense. So what that means is they're charged with the crime of disorderly person. So, relatively, it's a small charge, and technically, it looks like it's a small charge, but the court can sentence somebody for this crime as long as 6 months in jail. Will somebody get 6 months in jail for this crime? Probably not. But theoretically, up to 6 months in jail is the maximum that court can find somebody guilty and sentence them if they prove that somebody has committed this crime. And on the extreme end, if the value involved is very very high, say for example somebody steals like a Audi car, for example, that's valued more than $75,000, for example. In New Jersey, under this statute, it is counted as a second degree crime, and a second degree crime in New Jersey has minimum of 5 to 10 years of prison time. So what that basically means is the same act of shoplifting, depending on the amount involved, it can be a very
Mhm.
small jail sentence, or it could be a very high jail sentence. And again, this particular jail sentence, it depends on the jurisdiction. In one jurisdiction it could be less, in one jurisdiction it could be more. So the bottom line is the amount involved, and the state, the jurisdiction where this criminal offense has occurred, will determine what kind of sentence somebody would get.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe I think you already took this up. So, what are the typical legal processes and penalties associated with shoplifting charges in New Jersey? You've already taken this. So, yeah, thank you so much, Chant, for that answer. And it's really been scary. I mean, if you look at the news very frequently, I mean, lately, there have been so many shoplifting cases by immigrants, by students, and not just this case, even by locals, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, let's move on to the next question, which I have for you. And this is about the post arrest processes. What typically happens during the processing of individuals arrested for shoplifting at a police department? And what should the alleged shoplifters, or maybe if they are shoplifters, expect during and after their court proceedings?
Sure. And so normally what happens is when there is shoplifting, there is always like
Mm.
somebody in the store that is like monitoring these things. And normally like
Right.
in a mall, or like, for example, say like Walmart, or like these big departmental stores, they
Mhm.
always have a system. They always have a surveillance system, and people don't realize that. But the surveillance system is like very, very strong. And companies like Walmart, they invest heavily into surveillance cameras and the surveillance
Mhm.
technology. So they automatically they know when people are stealing things. I mean, we don't realize that, but they have such good technology that they can easily detect shoplifting.
Mhm.
And normally, what happens is they have a process in place. And when this kind of a shoplifting is observed, what first initially happens is their store security team, they will detain somebody. So all they can do is they can detain somebody because they've been caught shoplifting, and normally they immediately call the police to the scene. And once the police come, they look at what has happened, and they see there is a probable cause. What they do is they arrest somebody, and they typically they transport them to the police station. So that is the first thing that happens. And at
Mhm.
the police station, what they do is they go through something called the booking process. And the booking process, simply what it does is they just collect their personal information, their name, their date of birth, sometimes their
Mhm.
race. So the basic stuff. They do fingerprinting and photographing. Fingerprinting and photographing is very important. The reason is, if somebody gets arrested and the police take them to the police station, during booking, the fingerprinting and photographing, this is not only done by the police, but it is also disclosed to the public, the photographs. So the mug shots. So the mug shots can be seen by anybody by Googling your name. So if somebody gets arrested for a crime and somebody Googles your name, more than likely the mugshot will show up somewhere. So the booking process is very important because the photographs are taken. But again, also, it's pretty bad for somebody that has committed a crime because that data is out in the public and people will be able to see the mugshot. And after that, what they do is they search somebody, they do an inventory of their belongings, and they ask them to keep it aside, things like their wallet, the keys, etc. They do a basic medical checkup, and normally what happens is at that point of time, this booking is done, they're put in the jail. And before putting in the jail, normally what also could happen is sometimes if it's a very very minor offense, what they will do is they will probably release them. Sometimes they will release them and they will give them like a citation and they will say they have to appear in court. That could happen. Or sometimes they can be eligible depending on the jurisdiction. If somebody is eligible, they might be released on the bail right after the booking process. And sometimes what they do is they just hold them in custody. So they just because they have a probable cause, they just do the booking and they just put them in jail. And they can put them in jail only for a limited amount of time because in U.S. Justice system, the criminal justice system, the person has to be produced in front of the judge. So this initial court appearance has to happen very very quickly. And in Texas, the max they get is 48 hours. So within 48 hours, for example, whoever is in the custody in the jail, they have to be produced in front of the judge, and then the judge will make a decision whether to grant them a bail or what goes on next after that. So typically, this is like the high level thing that we typically see when somebody gets arrested.
Okay, Chan, thank you so much for taking that up. And, we have folks out there watching us and even dropping questions. So I'll quickly say hi to them. So, hi to Pranav Singh, Amy, Nia, and Chokatali. Then Tanushri, thank you so much. I think we'll take up, yeah, Tanushri's question is already appearing on the screen. Let's take this up quickly. So, Chand, if an F-1 visa holder is found guilty of shoplifting and subsequently faces visa revocation or deportation, can they argue that this would result in undue hardship to harm their family members who are US citizens or permanent residents? And what legal avenues are available to challenge the visa revocation or deportation order?
Sure. So what happens is when somebody gets arrested for shoplifting, normally what
Mhm.
we typically see is the visa is typically getting revoked very quickly. And when the visa gets revoked, it does not mean that they have to go out of the country immediately. The visa is something where somebody, if they travel out of the country, when they re-enter, they have to use it. So when the visa gets revoked, it does not mean that they have to leave the country on the very same day. But what that means is the next time they go out of the country, the next time they go for stamping, they have to basically go for visa stamping. And what that typically means is there is a lot of scrutiny. And when they go for visa stamping, the officer is going to look at the crime, the shoplifting, and look at what kind of, whether they got a conviction or not. Because initially, when they're arrested, all they're doing is they're just charging somebody with a crime. They're not convicted of a crime. So conviction is different, charging is different. And visa revocations are happening even at the initial stage. The minute somebody is arrested, somebody is charged, we are seeing visa revocations. But visa revocations do not mean that you have to be out of the country the very next day. Visa revocations mean that the next time you travel out of the country, you have to go get a visa, and the visa officer, at that point of time, they will do a background check. They will analyze your case and see what is going on and see what the court has found. So it's a big process. And that being said, for people who are convicted, so there are some crimes where they make you automatically inadmissible to US, and the crimes like, for example, murder, rape, and for example, uh, sexual exploitation of a child or human trafficking. So there are some crimes where you become automatically inadmissible to United States. So those are tough. There are waivers available, but for crimes that are automatically going to make you inadmissible, it is very very hard, and there is a lot of scrutiny. But again, the bottom line is there are some waivers available, and you have to go through the process. And there is a lot of analysis that goes on. Your ties to US, what kind of hardship you will have versus what kind of a crime has been committed. So when we talk about shoplifting in general, if it is like shoplifting where the amount is not very uh, large amount of money involved, the penalties are less. And not only that, we also have to look at the final conviction, because the final court order from the court, that will make a lot of difference on what kind of waivers you might be eligible for or what you might not be eligible for. But high level, when you get arrested, you're only being charged, you're not being convicted. The criminal justice system gives us something called due process. So we can use this due process to go through this entire court system and fight the case. And there's a lot of things that need to be done before you are convicted of this crime.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Chand, for taking that up. And totally, I mean, so the degree of the crime committed or the amount of money or the amount that you shoplifted, right? Suppose, I mean, if it's a gold chain or a diamond necklace or something over a probably a chip packet, it's something so different, right? So thank you so much,
That's
Chand, for
correct.
taking that up. And Tanushree, yeah, if you have any more questions, we are here. Stay with us. And yeah, you can drop your questions if you have any further. And let's move on, Chand. I have some more questions for you. And this is regarding, again, the court proceedings and representation. So, what steps should the alleged shoplifters take to prepare for their court appearance, following their release with a summons? And how important is it for them to have legal representation? And what should they look for in an attorney?
Sure. So when we talk about the court appearance, so what typically happens is, so they go to the court. That's called the initial court appearance, and this process is called arraignment. And during arraignment, what happens is the charges are read. So the defendant, the people who has been charged with this crime, they are given an opportunity where they can listen to the charges, and at that point of time they can enter into a plea of guilty, not guilty, or no contest. And the judge also normally sets a bail, so they set a bail, and depending on the crime. And for shoplifting crimes, typically the bail will be set. I mean, uh, for these kind of crimes, the bail amount is decided by the judge, and depending on the jurisdiction, the bail amounts could vary. And once that is done, what happens is the actual court case starts. And so in US, we have something called the jury system. And the beauty of the jury system is somebody can demand to get a jury trial. What that means is the judge is not the one that is deciding the facts of the case. It is common people who are US citizens, and it is random. It's random, so they can randomly call somebody to be on the jury. So these common people who are people in the society, they come, they act as people who decide the facts. So that is the beauty of American justice system. We have something called the jury trial, and again, this is something what somebody can demand and ask for. The judge, they can also waive their right to jury trial and say they want the judge to decide the case. They can do it, or they can say they want a jury trial and ask for it. And that is a trial process. But before we get to that process, there is something called pre-trial. So pre-trial is where the person who has been charged with a crime, so their legal side, they can talk to the other side, the prosecution side. They can ask for evidence, and they can exchange evidences. They can exchange the witness lists. They can file motions like pre-trial motions, most motions to dismiss. There are so many things that are done, and this is before even the judge, the jury gets into the picture. So there is a lot of things like discovery, plea bargaining, and sometimes depending on what kind of a crime it is, the defendant's lawyer and the prosecutor, they can actually engage in plea bargaining, maybe try to see if potentially some charges can be reduced. Maybe they can enter into a plea agreement, maybe do various kinds of things. So this is what happens in the pre-trial stage. So pre-trial is where both the parties are negotiating, and both are trying to save time, because the prosecutor side, they're very busy, and their goal is to basically look at the bigger crimes. So depending on the crime, they want to get the cases done quickly. So plea bargaining is a very important thing that people use during pre-trial process. And then if they cross that step, the next step is the trial step. The trial is basically where if you have a jury, the jury is selected. And in the jury selection, there is a big process, and there are rules on how the jury is selected in every state. So the jury selection happens, and in the jury selection, common people of the society, they come, and they're interviewed, and then they're selected. And once that is done, there are opening statements, there is presentation of evidence, there is closing arguments, and at the end of everything, the jury has to deliberate. The jury will reach a verdict, and what the judge does is, they typically will have to accept the jury's findings, the fact findings. So the jury is the one that does the fact finding, and the judge will pronounce the sentence based on the jury's verdict. So this is a very important part of the American justice system, where the jury and the judge act together in the trial. So it is not like just in the whims and fancies of the judge just to make a fact finding. So there is a process. It is a very good process. The due process rights are set in our legal system, and what that means is, it's a good process, and people have a lot of chances to argue their case. And if there's anything wrong going on happening, the due process gives you some rights. And if they're found guilty, what will happen is, there is a sentencing by the judge. So this is what the alleged shoplifters could expect. Basically, the process where somebody gets arrested, but they're read their rights. They have a chance to have a lawyer of their choice, so they can always have legal representation. Right to a lawyer is a fundamental part of the American justice system in the criminal aspect. And once they have legal representation, they go through this process. They go through the pre-trial process, the final trial process. Only after that part is the final sentencing done. Normally, what I see is, a lot of times, if it is the first offense, if it is a small shoplifting crime, more than likely the prosecution would be interested to give them a plea bargain, give them some opportunity for probation, deferred adjudications. So these kind of things are common. But again, always try to have legal representation. And when I say legal representation, have a lawyer who knows the criminal law in that jurisdiction. Somebody who's an immigration lawyer, somebody who's a business lawyer, they're not right for fighting the criminal law part. So always you need to have a lawyer who knows the criminal law. And again, the criminal lawyers from that particular jurisdiction is what somebody should always look for. And the criminal law is always typically uh, state jurisdiction based. So you have to ensure that somebody is licensed in that state where somebody has been charged with this crime, and then go from there.
Right. Thank you so much, John, for taking that up. And absolutely, I hope folks out there, you are so far enjoying this session. Is very, very informative. And Tanushri Paul, by the way, whose question we had taken up, she's saying, thanks a lot for your response. So thank you, Chand. And yes, we have more questions. We will take them up. I'll just say, stay with us, friends, because we will have some more questions. We'll take these up first, and then we'll take yours. All right. So, Chand, this is about some potential defenses and mitigation. So, what are the possible defenses uh, that could these alleged shoplifters attorneys present, to contest the shoplifting charges? So are there any ways to mitigate the impact of these charges on their future, both legally and in terms of their immigration status as well?
Sure. And the criminal justice system in United States. So the beauty is, we will be able to present defenses if we have defenses. And for a shoplifting charge, there are defenses. And the first thing is lack of intent. So in US, in the criminal justice system, you need to have intent to commit a crime. So, for example, somebody put something in their a cart, and sometimes it happens. Accidentally, they forgot to pay, and they just walked out of the store. And it was never really their intention not to pay. It is just that it was an unfortunate mistake. They just forgot. They never had the intent to steal at all. So the lack of intent is a very, very important defense to shoplifting. And again, you have to prove it. It is not easy, but again, uh, even the other side, the prosecution has to prove that somebody had an intent to commit the crime. Without proving intent, the prosecution might not be able to prevail. So lack of intent is a very, very important defense. And so the way you prove it is, you look at the evidence, you look at maybe the camera recordings, maybe any witness statements, and so on. So lack of intent is something very major, because if somebody did not really intend to steal, it was an accident, they cannot be convicted of the crime because they did not really have the intent. So that's a very important defense. And then sometimes also mistaken identity. So, for example, there is a possibility that somebody else committed the shoplifting, but there was an accidental mistake. Maybe somebody was a part of a group, three, four people. Somebody committed a crime, and then there was an accidental mistaken identity, and somebody got arrested. So, if there is a mistaken identity, that's a defense, and they can use that defense and fight the case. Sometimes also insufficient evidence. So, in criminal law, there is something called proving beyond a reasonable doubt. And the prosecution has to prove it, not the defense. So, the prosecution has to prove that somebody has committed a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a very, very high standard of burden. So, the defense lawyer, what they do is they look at the evidence presented, they look at the sufficiency and the credibility of that evidence. Is the evidence just based on somebody's statement? Is it so? All the evidence that the shop has is it just the witness statements? Is it somebody's statements? We don't know. So they look at what kind of evidence has been presented, and uh, they try to argue whether if it is sufficient or not sufficient. Is it insufficient evidence? Because the prosecution does have the burden to prove that it is a crime that has been committed beyond reasonable doubt by that particular person. So that's a very important defense that people use. And some people can also use duress or coercion, basically forcing somebody to accept into committing the act. So duress or coercion, if it is proved, again, that's a very good defense. You can use that to argue your case and basically get that case out of that court. And mental incapacity. So mental incapacity is also very important. Somebody has to have an intent to commit a crime. And if somebody has some mental illness or cognitive impairment for some reason, and because of that mental impairment, they committed a crime. Mental incapacity is also a defense to a crime. Depending on the jurisdiction, the kind of loss, it can be used. And sometimes entrapment. Entrapment is also a big thing. So entrapment is if a police officer or, for example, even the store security, they kind of induced somebody to commit a crime. Maybe they did something to induce somebody to commit a crime. Entrapment is illegal. So the police officers or the store security, they cannot induce somebody, they cannot entrap somebody into committing a crime. If they do it, the entrapment is illegal, the case will be thrown out. So entrapment is also a very good defense to crimes. Uh, Overall, I mean, again, the criminal lawyers will talk about a lot more things. But again, on a high level, from the current legal process, these are the kind of high level defenses that people can use if they ever are charged with these kind of crimes.
Okay, thank you so much, Chand, for taking that up. And yeah, we will definitely take some more questions, Chand. You just have to stay with us. And folks out there, also keep dropping your questions. We will take them up. But now it's time for a short break. Maybe we will just go have some coffee and some water or something. You can come back. Don't go anywhere because we are definitely going to speak more about the topic today, that is shoplifting in the US and how it affects many. So friends, stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Of course, if you have questions to Attorney Chance Parvathaneni directly, you can call him, you can contact him, you can even email him. The details are on the screen. Chand is 817 523 8247. That is his phone number. Please note it down. You can even email him at law@spblawfirm.com and visit his website, spblawfirm.com. And this is Napasa Pradhan on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. Don't go anywhere.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is Nipasa Pradhan on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. And today we have none other than guest attorney Chand Parvatineni, and we are talking about shoplifting in the US. And friends out there, how it affects. So we are knowing the risks, the F-1 visa challenges. So if you have any questions, keep dropping them wherever you're watching us. We are streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And Chand, it's such a privilege to have you here today once again. It's been awesome so far, the first half. And now this is the second half where we are going to discuss further and dive deeper into the topic. So, Chand, have you ever dealt with any shoplifting cases yourself?
Uh, yes, we did. So, I mean, normally, what this is what happens if somebody gets arrested for a crime and they apply for, say, for example, the H-1B extension or some kind of a benefit, or they go to the visa stamping. So these kind of issues pop up, and normally this the USCIS, for example, if it is in the country and they're applying for a H-1B extension or some kind of a benefit, USCIS will come back and say there is an arrest record, and they will ask them to produce from an immigration perspective. They will ask them to produce the charging document, so which is the police report. So they want the police report that talks about the charges, and then they also want all the court documents that finally adjudicate these charges. And what that means is they want the final court document that signed by the judge that says if somebody is guilty, no contest, or not guilty. They want that final judgment. And some people get probation, so they also want to look at those documents. So from an immigration perspective, if somebody gets charged with these any kind of a criminal offense, not only shoplifting, could be anything, could be DUI, DWI, domestic violence, assault, battery, anything, they have to make sure that they have all these documents. And USCIS will require court certified documents, so they will need to have court certified documents. And sometimes what happens is the crimes get expunged because they followed what the court has asked them to do. Sometimes the court records get sealed or court records get expunged. But from an immigration perspective, even if a record is sealed or expunged, we still have the burden to show it to USCIS and tell them what the crime was about. So what that means is, from an immigration perspective, again, there are defenses, there are exceptions, there are petty offense exceptions, and so on. So depending on the severity of the crime, if it's a crime where immigration-wise, it's not a crime of a crime that's going to make them deportable or inadmissible, we might be able to fight it. We might be able to get an approval. So not all crimes will automatically get them deported or will automatically cause the denial of the future cases. And which is why it is very important that they fight the case and they keep proper documentation of what has happened. These will be asked when they go for stamping. They get asked, and in the RFEs it get asked by us. So we deal with them constantly. And for crimes that are not inadmissible, people will be able to get through, but it's a hassle. So they have to go through that process every time. And again, if somebody is a repeat offender, more than likely USCIS will come back and say it's a crime of moral turpitude. So there is this word called crime of moral turpitude. So crime of moral turpitude is basically any crime that the society loathes or the society abhors. So those kind of crimes are crimes of moral turpitude, and the definition is very, very wide. So any crime, even like shoplifting, is typically a crime of moral turpitude. Burglary is a crime of moral turpitude. Assaulting somebody, that's definitely a crime of moral turpitude. Any crime where the society does not accept that behavior, it's technically could come under CIMT. And what that means is, anytime somebody gets into those kind of issues, they're going to have immigration consequences. And I've seen this. I mean, sometimes, like a lot of times, it is an unfortunate mistake. It's a first-time mistake, and most of the cases that I've seen, they're always first-time mistakes. And people have been like doing so good, and all of a sudden, for some reason, unfortunate reason, they commit these crimes. They are under heavy stress. And however, what I think they should do, I mean, people have not been into that situation. They should always ensure they don't get into that kind of a scenario in the first place in the future. But unfortunately, if somebody is in that situation, always make sure you engage the attorney, because this country, US, uh, we have due process, and due process is like such a valuable thing for democracy. Everybody has their day in court, and there are rights. Everybody has legal rights. So when they use the right criminal attorney, the criminal attorney, they cannot change the facts. Facts are facts. But within the purview of the court system, they can ensure they get the best of what their rights are. So their rights are protected because even if somebody has done something wrong, that that person also has legal rights, and those rights have to be protected. And by using the right criminal attorney, they'll ensure that the rights are protected. For example, the police, they cannot entrap somebody. The police also, they have to ensure they gather evidence in a proper format. So there are certain rules. If they don't follow certain rules, even if somebody has committed a crime tomorrow, the person might not get convicted. So there is a legal process that everybody has to follow. Uh, People have to follow, make sure they don't do any criminal acts, but at the same time, the police also have limitations on their police power. So everybody has to follow the process. And the criminal lawyer, the right criminal lawyer in the right jurisdiction, they will ensure that the rights are protected by going through the facts of the case and ensuring that things are right. So, and a lot of times what I see is if it's a first time offense, sometimes the district attorney is willing, seeing their background. If somebody has like a very high education and they've never been doing anything wrong, their record is perfect. The district attorney might be willing to work and reduce the charges. This happens all the time. I see where the district attorney, when they look at the facts as a whole, they look at the background as a whole. If they feel that it's in the best interest of the society, they might even reduce the charges. So what that means is just work with the criminal attorney, let the criminal attorney kind of be involved at every stage once you are arrested. And that way, tomorrow you're going to minimize the damage. I mean, anytime you're involved in a criminal issue, there is always a problem. But the damage can be minimized by involving the right criminal attorney and use your due process, use your legal rights to fight the case in the court.
Okay, and talking about that, leads me to these questions from Amy. So it's already displaying on the screen. How do societal attitudes and media portrayals of shoplifting offenses committed by F-1 visa holders influence public perceptions of immigration and contribute to stereotypes and stigmatization within both immigrant communities and the broader society? So, what do you have to say about this, Chand?
Sure. So, media portrayal. I think one thing that everybody should understand, and which is another reason why people should be very, very careful, always be cognizant of the laws, is because anytime you get arrested by the police, it's out there in the public records. You don't have to basically. There are a lot of like websites who collect this data on a daily basis. So anytime somebody gets arrested, somebody gets charged with some crime, the data is out there in the public. The mugshots are out there in the public. And what that means is the media, they easily can gather this data. So things are not private. You get arrested, the data is out there in the public. So for most of the crimes. So, and what happens is the media only has like part of information. They look at the arrest record, they just look at the charges. And a lot of times what I see is they come up with their own conclusions and they portray somebody as if they have been convicted. American justice system, we have due process. Nobody is guilty of a crime unless the court determines somebody is guilty of a crime. Just because somebody is charged with a crime does not mean they are guilty. And unfortunately, when media gets involved, sometimes what they do is they look at the public records, they look at the charges, and they look at the mugshots, and they put it out there. And sometimes it gets portrayed in such a way where even if somebody is not really guilty of a crime, all that has happened is somebody has just been charged with a crime. Tomorrow the court will decide whether somebody is guilty or not. And most of the cases, they are like even lot of times they're not convictions. People are found not guilty in a lot of cases where somebody has been arrested for crimes. So what that means is it's unfortunate, but sometimes media does the media portrayal sometimes can show people in bad light and make it look like they're actually guilty of a crime, even though they're not, because we do have a legal system where a lot of process needs to be followed before somebody is actually convicted of a crime.
So true, so true. And thank you so much for taking that up. For Amy, if you have any more questions, you can keep commenting. We will take them up. But now let's move on to this next one from Vishnu. Vishnu is asking, hello, Chand. If a person applied multiple H-1B registrations in fiscal year 2023 and did not apply for petition at USCIS, will they be punished for upcoming later or if they attended any other visa in the US Embassy? And the second question is, how long will it take for USCIS to get response for I-129 petition related to H-1B in regular processing?
Sure. So I'll talk about the multiple registration part first. So if the company has done multiple registrations in the past, and what we are seeing with USCIS is USCIS has a very good system, and their system, they can they do a lot of data analysis, and they can find issues. So multiple registrations, if there is collusion, so related companies or unrelated companies, if they have colluded, USCIS, their systems, they found out through patterns that the companies are related. And if USCIS said they are related, and the prior H1B cases, they were either revoked, denied, or not even filed. For example, if USCIS has the data, what they have done is they are referring for criminal prosecutions. Okay, so that's what USCIS has been doing. And from an employee's perspective, from a beneficiary's perspective, what will happen is if they have got any benefit in the past through collusion, that H1B will be revoked. But if they have a new company which is genuine, they have a bona fide job offer, and they went through the lottery once again, they got selected. If that petition gets filed, USCIS will approve that petition, and even at the port of entry, I mean, just be prepared to answer if they ask, because I do see some cases where they are asked, why did so many companies file a H1B for you? So if there is a logical reason, if in reality they did get approached by these companies, and the company, this person authorized these companies to file the case because they thought it was a valid offer, I don't think anything is wrong. But if knowingly they participated in this collusion, they could have a problem. That being said, normally if there is a multiple registration issue, the way to fix it is go through the lottery again, make sure the job is bona fide, the company is bona fide, get an approval, and that is how you fix the problem. Okay, and I've seen a lot of people who had revocations. They left that company, they went through the process once again, ensured that everything was clean. They did not participate in any collusion of any kind. And what USCIS is saying is, if the employees did not participate in that collusion, their future petitions should not have any issue. So, as an employee, if you are not a part of any collusion, you will not have a problem with your future cases when it gets picked up in the lottery through a new case again. And even when you go for the stamping, you should not have any issue because you have not done anything wrong. If the company is colluded, it's the problem of the companies, and USCIS is revoking those cases.
Okay, Chan, thank you so much for taking that up. And Vishnu, I hope you got your answer. If you have more questions, you can keep commenting. And I'd like to just say,
I
friends,
think
even if
there was
you're watching
another.
this, yeah, sure, tell me. Oh,
I
yeah,
think
there
there
was
was another
another
question
question
about
from
the
Vishnu.
processing time.
The second
Yeah.
question, right.
Yeah, I think about the
So, how
processing time.
long will it take? Yeah, how long will it take for USCIS to get response for I-129 petition related to H-1B in regular processing?
So for the recent cap cases, I mean, and again, this is what we see every year. We for regular cases also we have seen cases get approved in about 2 to 3 weeks. Regular cases. That being said,
Mhm.
not all cases will get approved that quickly. So on an average, what we normally see is 3 to 6 months is what we normally see on an average. That being said, always we have some companies where some cases where we see an approval very quickly, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and some cases take 7, 8 months. But 3 to 4 months on an average is what we have been seeing nowadays. And not all cases take the same amount of time because the background check times for every company, every employee, every case, and also the case load on USCIS, it varies time to time. But again, in the last
Right.
1 month, actually this month of May, I have seen cases get approved in 2 weeks in regular processing, the cap cases.
Okay, thank you so much, Chand. And now, Vishnu, I hope you got all your questions answered. But yes, I would like to say what I was saying earlier that, friends, even if you're watching this after the stream has ended, you can keep commenting your questions because we have our experts who will be very happy to, answer your questions. So, yeah, let's take this one. This is from Shilpa. I am a student on F-1 visa studying cybersecurity. I have 5 years of working experience in the tech field. What are the probabilities of finding a jobs on OPT and transfer it to H-1B and a GC?
And based on the kind of filings that at least we do at our law firm, I can see that IT security, cyber security, there are definitely a lot of jobs available in that field. And again, we do. I mean, I work with thousands of H-1B filings in a year, and if I look at what we're doing in the last 6 months, I see a lot of demand for data engineers and IT security engineers. So it looks like there's a lot of demand for those cases. And the way we know it is through the filing data. And all the filing data, the LCA data is out there. It's public data. It's released by USCIS. And you will see that there are a lot of companies hiring people, IT security engineers, cyber security engineers, IT security analysts, all the time. So I think in general that's a good field. And so on an F1 visa, what happens is you get OPT. And the good thing about OPT is you can very quickly find a job because the company does not have to sponsor you for a visa right away. So once you finish your F1 visa, once you get your OPT, I think you should start looking in the market. And I mean, again, market is a little bit slow, but again, I would not say it's completely down because we still see a lots and lots of companies hiring people on H1. So that clearly means that there is still shortage of talented people, and things like cybersecurity, where things are very relevant to the IT industry. My guess is job scenario would not be bad. It's definitely going to be good. And I think once you find an employer on OPT, most of the time what I see is the same employer will decide to file for a H1B and down the line the GC. And since you are just a student studying, my guess is by the time you graduate and you get OPT and you start looking, you'll definitely see a lot of options.
All right, thank you so much, Chand. And Shilpa, I hope you got your answer. Well, if you also want to get in touch with us directly, if you have direct questions to us, or if you're looking for job placements, EADs, green cards, especially Shilpa, you were asking if you want any more further information as well. You can write to me directly. You can even call me on the number 408-335-6444 and email me at nipa@higheritpeople.com, and just check us out on this website, www.higheritpeople.com, where you will get a clearer picture of what we actually deal with. So thank you so much for that. And Chand, in our previous episodes, we had some folks out there who had questions, who dropped comments. So I think we should take them up. So let's take up a few before we leave today. And that is displaying on the screen. So hang on. So this is from Simpalacharis, if I've not mistaken. I have my sister who got a job offer and she filed the visa form and made the interview on 7th of February. But up up to now, she has not received the visa. What could be the delay for? This was in our episode, which was about uncovering H1B application insights.
Sure. So it looks like it's a long time. I mean, looks like they went for a visa interview on February 7th, and my guess
Mhm.
is the visa got refused. So the visa refusal means basically a visa refusal 221G. All that means is the visa is temporarily refused, and the consulate has to perform more background checks. It's not a
Mhm.
denial. Visa refusal is not a denial. It is just it's a temporary hold, and during this time, the consulate they want to do their background checks. And normally, when we say background checks, what happens is the consulate they do their background checks, they reach out to the employer, and sometimes they also reach out to the client. So the first thing I think they should do is talk to their employer and see if their employer has got any email or any communication from Department of State. So very commonly there is an interview, visa interview, in a month or two. Typically, max is about 2 months. In about two
Mhm.
months, the Department of State typically will contact the employer, and some cases take longer, but most of the cases take about 60 days. So in 60 days, if that employer has not received any communication from Department of State, what I would suggest is have the employer reach out to the consulate and see if the consulate requires any additional documents and see what's going on. Sometimes the consulate will reply back, sometimes they'll give a generic answer, but at least what the company has to do is they have to reach out to the consulate and see if they've been trying to reach the company and they've not been able to contact them or what's going on.
Mhm.
And sometimes they'll get an answer. I think that is what needs to happen immediately. And once that happens, based on the response, I think they can do the next steps. But for a start, I think give them 60 days. So everybody has to give the consulate at least 60 days. Once 60
Mhm.
days is over, at that point of time, definitely reach out to the consulate and try to see what's going on and take action based on that.
Okay. Thank you so much, John, for taking that up. And we'll quickly take this next one. This is this was H1B cap filing 2025 lottery process, and it was in that episode where Licton is asking, are multiple registrations from different unrelated employers accepted this year?
If it's multiple registrations from completely unrelated employers, these employers are
Right.
not colluding with each other, there is no problem because multiple companies can give a job offer to the same employee. So, for example, Apple is giving a job offer, Google is giving a job offer, and say Tesla is giving a job offer. Three companies giving a job offer to the same guy. It is completely legal, and the three companies can even file a H1B. They can file three petitions if the guy gets selected in the lottery. It is acceptable. The
Mhm.
only problem that USCIS had last year and the year before that was people were colluding with each other. So it is not about relation and not related. Even unrelated companies, they were colluding together, and they're colluding with the purpose of uh, increasing somebody's chances in the lottery. So it was unfair. So it was unfair to those people who were not doing it. So that unfairness was what worried USCIS and caused a problem. So it is that collusion that was a problem. So if it is
Right.
completely unrelated companies, the companies have a real and a bona fide job offer, independent job offers. It is completely legal.
Okay. That's very interesting. I mean, that person should also be, I mean, extraordinarily qualified, I think, to have exceptionally two different, absolutely different job opportunities, right, Chand? All right, so let's take up this next one also. This is from Simpala. I have a sister who got a job offer. She filed the visa form and made interview. Oh, this was already taken, I think. I think we've taken that up already. We have taken that up already, right? Just now.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, then I think that's it for that for now for those. Let's take up some more from today's episode, like from the comments today. Let's take up Sakshi. Hi, I'm an international student on an F-1 visa, and I recently made a mistake by shoplifting. I'm really worried about the consequences. Can I argue that I didn't understand the law, or that one moment, or that I was under a lot of stress and pressure to succeed academically? I'm afraid that this one mistake will ruin my future and get me deported. Can you help me understand if I have any valid defenses or options to minimize the damage? This is very interesting. Chan, please.
Uh, sh- sh- Sure, sure. Actually, like in the show, like a couple of minutes back, we talked about all the kinds of defenses that somebody could have, and all of those defenses are something what Sakshi can use, depending on her fact pattern, her case. But I want to make one important point. So in US, and I think in most of the countries, the criminal justice system, ignorance of law cannot is not really a good defense. So when we say I'm not aware of the law, ignorance of law, that by itself is not a valid defense. So that defense is like can never be used. That I'm ignorant of the law.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of other defenses. Things like mental capacity during what's going on at that time, the amount of uh, the monetary value of this item, and those things I think will play a big picture. And also the fact that she said that it is her first time. I think since it's the first time offense, whenever it's a first time offense, I think there are options. The criminal prosecutor, the prosecution on the other side, the district attorney on the other side. Um, I mean, they will be pretty much maybe making some kind of offers. They will also look at things as a whole. They will look at the dollar amount. If it's like a very low dollar amount, I think she might be fine from an immigration perspective. And uh, a lot depends. So I'm just hoping that the dollar amount is not very high. And again, whether it's a high dollar amount or a low dollar amount, it depends on the state. Every state has a different kind of a law. So in Texas, what $500 in Texas uh, would charge with, in some other state it could be different. So the state where this incident happened will play a very big part, and the kind of a court that you have will play a very big part. And again, what we typically see is there are some counties where the courts are very harsh, and then there are some counties where they have bigger problems to worry about because there are a lot of crimes, like the core city areas, for example. They have like assault, battery, rape, murder, a lot of those cases. So when they have those cases, you're a first-time offender, and yours is a small case. They tend to see things differently. And if you are in a county where the crime is very low, even a very small crime, they'll make it a big deal. So, which is why there are a lot of things that a criminal attorney will be able to help you to navigate the situation. Yes, there are defenses. We talked about some of the defenses, but again, what defense would work in your case, and is it even valid in your case, is something what the defense attorney might be able to tell you once they look at your entire case as a whole. But the fact that you said it is your first offense might make it a little bit easier for you from an immigration perspective. Okay, because if it is a petty offense, there is a petty offense exception too in immigration. So depending on the type of offense, if it's a one-time offense, just fight your case, use a criminal lawyer, but at the same time, make sure you never repeat this crime ever after in your future. So that way, whenever you go for stamping down the line after a couple of years, they can see that it's a one-time thing and you've never ever repeated that mistake again.
Okay, thank you so much, Chand, for at least making Sakshi hopeful. And well, before we leave, I just wanted to take this one last question, which is for you directly. And this is saying, Chancellor, presently I am on STEM OPT. I got recently H1B pick. Should I go for premium filing or counselor filing? Please advise.
If you're in STEM OPT, what that means is you have work authorization, so you're not in a hurry. So what I would definitely do is not go with premium, because premium is $2,805. It's very expensive. $2,800 is very expensive, and you don't need to spend that money. So I would definitely say you don't need to go with premium processing. And then the other question, the counselor filing. So the counselor filing versus change of status, that's a common question that we see a lot. And normally what I see is, if people have a lot of STEM OPT left, say they have 2 more years of STEM OPT still available to them, and they already have the F-1 visa stamping, they have travel plans to go back and forth. To me, you are probably a good candidate for consular processing, because you have a lot of flexibility. You don't need visa stamping. You can go back and forth. So consular processing is something that you can look for if you do have a lot of STEM OPT EAD valid for a long time. But again, if your STEM OPT EAD is expiring in the next 6-7 months, I would say go with change of status. If not, consular processing is something that you should definitely explore. But premium, I don't think you should go with premium. I mean, and unless you really have a solid reason, I don't think premium is worth the money, because USCIS has become very efficient. They are doing things very quickly, and things were not as slow as they were like 2-3 years back. So I can definitely see that because they have achieved a lot of efficiency, premium might not be worth it. That money might not be worth it.
Okay. Okay, Chan, thank you so much for taking them up. And thank you. I mean, it was a very, very interesting session today, very informative and insightful. I'm sure folks out there had a good time because all of their questions were also answered, most of their questions. So thank you so much for doing this, Chan, today. We had a good time having this discussion on
Yeah, thank you,
shoplifting in the
Nipasa.
US. Yeah. So I hope to see you again, Chand, in the coming week, hopefully, or the next to next week, since you're very busy, right? You were saying. So I hope to see you again very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Well,
Nipasa.
folks are
Yeah.
there.
Thank you,
Yeah,
folks.
thank you. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted. Please go on.
Yeah, yeah. I think the criminal law aspect, I think, is a very important part of immigration. So people just have to be aware of the laws and the harsh repercussions that we would have. Even if it's a small offense, sometimes you might be okay with the immigration, but the stress that's going to cause you, because any criminal offense, it's out there in the public. People can Google and find out. Your employers in the future can do a background check and find out. So all
Hmm.
that stress. So the best way to avoid it is be aware of the laws and don't even get there. The one thing I want everybody to be aware of is, if somebody gets somebody gets arrested, that record will be public. People will know about it. And what that means is, try not to do anything that will get you arrested. and just don't jeopardize your career or the job career or your immigration status.
Okay, thank you, Chan. Thank you. And I hope to see you again very soon. I can already see it's raining very heavily, I think, in Texas, where you are at. It's looking very dark behind you.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. All of a sudden, it got bad, and the last 30 minutes, it started raining again.
I know, I know. So you take care, stay safe, and see you again. Then have a great day ahead, Chand.
Yeah, thank you, Dipasa.
All right. So, friends out there, thank you to you too. But before I go, there is a very, very good news for all you folks out there, especially the ones out there in India and also in Bangladesh. So, I have this very, very good news, and that is this remote job that is available for home personnel for about 200 people, and the hours of working is just 3 hours per day. So, you can only imagine you can just make a little time and earn just straight from home, from the comfort of your home. So the pay is in Indian rupees, 10,000 rupees, and in US dollars is $120. And in Bangladesh taka, it is 12,800 per month. And yes, in 1,000 Indian rupees, you in 12 US dollars, and in BDT 1,280 per meeting. So you can earn up to 3,000 $30,000 30,000 rupees, sorry, my bad, 30,000 rupees, that is in Indian rupees, and 360 US dollars, or 38,400 Bangladesh taka per month. So this is a very, very good opportunity for all you folks who have some time and maybe are very busy at home, but you still got some time to work and do this part-time job. It's just 3 hours per day. So it's very flexible. Any time of the day you can just invest your 3 hours, and the responsibilities are you have to manage LinkedIn, create posts, respond to messages, monitor analytics, and research and data entry. And the requirements is that you should have your own computer, and you should have reliable internet connection, and also LinkedIn knowledge, active LinkedIn account, and basic English writing. And you should be an independent worker. So yes, you can apply if you're very interested in this job description, this job offer, and send your resumes and LinkedIn to this profile, swapnil at staffinglyhealthcare.com. So once again, I repeat, swapnil, that is SWAPNIL, at the rate staffinglyhealthcare.com. STAFFINGLYHEALTHCARE.com. So join us today, friends. Thank you so much. And the details are scrolling on the screen. You can definitely note them down, and it'll be very nice to receive your resume. So send them. All right. So thank you so much, all you folks, wherever you joined us from today. It was a good session, and I hope to see you again very, very soon. But don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This is Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, this channel. If you subscribe, you will be updated first when we have discussions and shows like these, webinars like these again in the future, very near future. So don't forget. And also, if you have more questions, just in case you're watching this after the stream has ended, you can keep commenting your questions, because we have our experts to answer them for you. Thank you. This is Nipasa Pradhan signing off for now. Y'all out there have a great day ahead. And yes, this is Immigration and Jobs Talk Show.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.